India is the home of Buddhism. Watch the movie Journey to the West. Then we're probably coming to understand this as well. But why is India no longer talking about Buddhism? It's about Hinduism or Islam. Because Indians are no longer Buddhist. To say that Buddhism in India today plays a rather modest role compared to other religions, even though it's deeply rooted in this country, that Indians are no longer Buddhist, is not true. But to say that Buddhism plays an extremely modest role with the country of India, Buddhism in India today, it's mostly concentrated in certain areas. For example, a state called Maharashtra, where there's a strong Buddhist movement. And this movement started in the mid-20th century, helped the Dravidians, that's the lowest class in Indian society, not ranked in class, to escape the oppression of the caste system. It is also the second most populous state in India, just behind the state Uttar Pradesh, and the population of the state, it's estimated to be about 125 million people. But not the whole state. It's Buddhist. It's just a small part of the state. This is only according to Buddhism. Buddhism now, it acts as a vehicle to promote social equality, free the oppressed. However, in terms of quantity, it's a very small percentage of the total population of India, the most populous country on the planet, more than 1.4 billion people, according to the most recent data from the Indian census. Then, Hinduism is still the religion with the highest percentage. About 80% of the population, equivalent to more than 966 million people follow this religion. Islam is the second largest religion in India, 14.2% of the population. That's equivalent to about 172 million people. Then there are some other religions. It's like Christianity, accounts for about 2.3% or 28 million Buddhism
people.
is only 0.7%
for about
of the population.
1.7%. That's equivalent to 20 million people. That's about 8 to 9 million people. It's very little. But I don't want to say that it's extremely small compared to Hinduism, the main religion of the whole country. There are also some indigenous religions in India, and other faiths are a smaller percentage. But Buddhism is still a major religion in the world. But he's 7 in his own backyard. It's my home because Buddhism originated in India. Buddhism was founded by Buddha Tiksa Mani. He was born around the 6th century BC, in a region called Kapilavatthu, the whole territory of the Sakya kingdom, which today lies near the border between India and Nepal. He was born into a royal family, but after seeing the suffering of old age, disease and death, you have given up your life away from home, to find a way out of this. After years of asceticism and meditation, he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, currently located in the Indian state of Bihar. From there he became the Buddha. It means enlightened people, and began to preach his teachings, to help people escape from the cycle of birth and death, and suffering. Buddhism from India has quickly ran out of India, to the neighborhoods, come to Asia, come to China, to a lot of other areas, and to even more remote places. And these places now, Buddhism is stronger than India. So even though Buddhism originated in India, but over the centuries, the development of other religions, in particular, Hinduism and Islam, weakening Buddhism in its own homeland. Today, it's not as important in India as it used to be, but there's still a small number of Buddhist communities, and Buddhist monuments are worshipped and preserved. What happened to the Indians? Do they not feel like Buddhism anymore? Or is it a distant historical story? Well, first I have to say that the story of Buddhism in India is like a movie. It's a lot of different episodes. Home of Buddha Tiksa Mani. Now there's not a lot of Buddhists. Let's start this story. That's a long time ago, over 2,000 years ago, when the Maurya Empire was so powerful. CI now governs almost all of India's 6 sub-regions, corresponding to the territory of India now. The peak of Buddhism in India. It was the time of a king. His name was King Ashoka. King Ashoka, after enlightenment that war is something that is not profitable, decided to turn the car 180 degrees, from a notorious king, to become a reformed convert to Buddhism. Not only that, you even use your power to promote Buddhism everywhere. King Ashoka built a series of stupas, stone pillars all over India. Even, we're also sending missions from what is now Sri Lanka to Greece, to spread Buddhism. But then times changed.
Love of Buddhism. The kingdom is just a fire. Rise and fall. After King Asaka died, the Maurya Empire is weakened, replaced by the Gupta Empire, in the 4th century to the 5th century AD. Our kingdoms are the more conservative thinkers, go back to Hinduism. And that's the Hinduism that we know. Hinduism is not just a religion. It's also part of the culture, the lifestyle of the Indians. It's easy to integrate and become a mainstream, while Buddhism was pushed to the fringes. In fact, this dynasty wasn't exactly anti-Buddhist. But with strong support for Hinduism, Buddhism has gradually lost its appeal. But that's not the peak of decline. The peak of decline, it's about the invasion of Muslim empires. From the 7th century onward, Buddhism is weak. Now you have to face a much heavier opponent. The Islamic empires. From Ghani to the Delhi kings. They're not very fond of Buddhism. They attack, pillaging and destroying major Buddhist centers, of which the most famous was the destruction of the Nalanda. It was a great Buddhist university at the time. Nalanda is not just a school. It's the Harvard of the ancient world. Imagine the scene. The most famous university was destroyed. The scholars were murdered. The books were burned. It's a tragedy of Buddhism in India. Before Nalanda has flourished and become a destination for scholars from all over the world, including China and Tibet, South Korea, Japan, Mongolia, Thailand, Syria, and many other countries. It's not just a cultural exchange. It's also a place where scholars come to share their knowledge, contribute to the construction, a rich and diverse academic environment, but it was destroyed. So, Buddhism is strong in renouncing the world. It's not an easy religion. To maintain political power, kings don't like that. Hinduism. With a hierarchy and a rich set of rituals. There was a strong attraction to kings, God and the elite. Because they will always hold their own. Hinduism has a very diverse system, gods and rituals. If you want money, there is a god of money. I pray for the power of the god of war. While Buddhism, there's an emphasis on letting go, enlightenment, but to be enlightened is not easy. People keep seeing the magic. The power demand seems more practical. It's this that made Hinduism quickly prevail. And Buddhism was gradually forgotten by the people. The story of Buddhism, of course, not quite the tragedy of India. In the 20th century, movement led by Dr. APK, brought Buddhism back to millions of Dalits, the lowest class, in the caste system of Hinduism. You see that Buddhism with a message of equality is a solution to resist the oppression of the caste system. And in 1956 he and hundreds of thousands of Davids converted to Buddhism in a collective ceremony. Buddhists in India are still a minority today. But Buddhism still has a new life, especially in those areas, like Maharashtra state, for example. It's also a reminder that no matter what the ups and downs are, Buddhism still holds an important place in the hearts of those who seek the path of enlightenment. To summarize the story of Buddhism in India, it's a stormy journey. From the top to the bottom, there's a revival in new circumstances. This is a living proof that history is always full of surprises. And the development of religion, it doesn't always happen in a straight line.